The forgotten child. The galaxy was burning. Stars lit the sky, but the light of war was brighter. Ships were falling like broken birds, and soldiers screamed across every channel. Planets that once had laughter now echoed only with silence. In the middle of this endless chaos, there was one ruined world. It had no name left, only ashes and smoke. And on this forgotten world, a small figure sat in the shadows. It was an alien girl. No more than 8 years old, her skin was pale blue, marked, with bruises, her clothes torn. Her eyes, wide and golden, stared at the sky that no longer cared for her. She had been left behind, not once, but twice. First by her own people, who called her useless. Then by the soldiers who promised to protect her, but fled when danger came. Now, she was alone, completely alone. She pressed her knees to her chest, trying to make herself smaller. The air was heavy with smoke, and her throat burned with every breath. Around her, the ruins of homes stood like broken teeth, sharp and dangerous. She was hungry, so hungry that her stomach cried louder than her voice. But she did not cry anymore. Tears had no meaning now. No one was coming for her. No one ever did. The ground shook with distant explosions. She closed her eyes, pretending for a moment that she was back with her family. But that family was gone. They had walked away from her when she needed them most. Why? She never understood. She only remembered the last words they told her. "You are a burden. You are nothing." Those words cut deeper than any wound. She whispered to herself in the dark, repeating them like a curse. Burden, nothing. Burden, nothing. Maybe if she said it enough, she would stop feeling the pain. Maybe if she believed it, the pain would fade. But deep inside, a small spark of hope still lived. She wanted someone to see her, someone to care, someone who would not run away. But hope was dangerous in this galaxy. Hope often led only to more pain. She heard footsteps in the ruins. Her heart raced. She pressed herself deeper into the corner, hiding behind broken stone. Was it an enemy? Was it a scavenger looking for something to steal? She held her breath, waiting. The footsteps stopped. Silence. Then a low sound, like a human voice, called out, not sharp, not cruel, but tired. The alien girl froze, her golden eyes wide. Could it be? She peeked through the crack in the wall and she saw him, a soldier wearing human armor, scratched and burned from battle. He limped as he walked, his face hidden under a cracked helmet. In his hands he carried a heavy rifle, but his movements were slow, weary. He looked around the ruins as if searching for something or someone. The girl's heart pounded harder. She had heard stories of humans. Some said they were monsters who destroyed everything. Others said they were protectors, strong and stubborn. Which one was this? She could not know. She pulled back, trembling. If he found her, what would he do? Would he finish what the others started and leave her in the dust? Would he harm her because she was alien? Her hands shook as she covered her mouth to keep quiet. The soldier stopped again. Slowly, he removed his helmet, revealing a face covered in dirt, sweat, and blood. But his eyes were different. They were not filled with anger or cruelty. They looked tired, but also gentle. He whispered something under his breath, words she could not understand. Then he sat down on a broken stone, placing his weapon on the ground. For the first time, the girl saw not a soldier but a human who looked as lost as she was. The alien girl wanted to move. She wanted to step out, but fear held her back. Her body told her to stay hidden. Her heart told her to try. The soldier looked around again. This time his gaze landed closer to where she hid. He narrowed his eyes. The girl froze. He knew someone was there. Slowly, very slowly, he spoke. "I know you're there." His voice was soft, not commanding, not cruel. "I won't hurt you." The girl's breath caught in her throat. Could those words be true? No one had said such things to her in so long. Her hands trembled as she held the broken wall. Her heart screamed at her to stay hidden, but her hope, tiny and fragile, pushed her forward. She stepped out, her small body shaking, her golden eyes glowing faintly in the smoke. The soldier's eyes widened. He saw her, truly saw her, not as a burden, not as nothing, but as a child, lost and abandoned. For the first time since the war began, the alien girl felt something she thought was gone. Forever, she felt seen, she felt noticed, but what would happen next? Would this human really protect her? Or would he too walk away like everyone else? The galaxy was cruel and trust was dangerous. But in that broken moment, in the ashes of war, a soldier and a child stood face to face, and the story of survival was about to begin. The human soldier appears. The smoke of the ruined world curled around the soldier as he walked. Every step was heavy, his boots sinking into ash and broken stone. His armor was scratched and burned, proof of battles fought not hours but minutes ago. He should not have been alive, but somehow he was, alone, tired, and carrying scars the galaxy would never see. This was Sergeant Daniel Kane, a human soldier. He had fought across 3 star systems, bled on 4 different worlds, and lost more brothers in arms than he could count. He was trained to fight, to obey, to survive. But when he looked at this ruined place, he felt something different. This was not war anymore, it was tragedy. He thought the planet was empty, abandoned by both sides, but a strange feeling in his chest told him otherwise. It was not a sound, not a sight, but a presence. Someone was here, watching him, waiting. He removed his helmet slowly, the smoke stinging his eyes, and whispered almost to himself, "Who's out there?" The girl froze where she hid, her small hands pressed to the broken wall. She could hear his voice, calm but tired. No threat, no sharp command. It was a voice she had never heard before. Her golden eyes peeked through the cracks, and she saw him. This, human with dirt on his face and pain in his eyes. Daniel sat down on a stone, resting his rifle beside him. He closed his eyes for a moment, and for the first time since the battle, he allowed himself to breathe. His thoughts wandered to his unit. Gone, scattered, maybe dead. He was not supposed to be here alone, and yet here he was, stranded in the middle of enemy territory. No backup, no orders, only silence. That was when he noticed movement, a flicker in the corner of his vision. His soldier's instincts sharpened. His hand reached for the rifle, but he stopped halfway, because what he saw was not an enemy soldier. It was something small, fragile, and shaking. A child, an alien child. She stepped out slowly, her bare feet covered in dust, her clothes torn and hanging loose. Her golden eyes glowed faintly, filled with fear, but also with something deeper. Daniel's heart stopped for a moment. This was no trick, no enemy trap, it was just a girl. The soldier blinked, confused. Why was she here? Why had she not been taken with the others? Her thin arms hugged her body as if she expected him to strike her. Daniel's chest tightened. He knew that look. He had seen it before in war, in villages destroyed by fire. It was the look of someone who had lost everything. Slowly he raised his hands, showing her he carried no threat. His voice was steady, gentle. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said. The words felt strange in his mouth. When was the last time he spoke without shouting, without giving orders? The girl flinched at his voice but did not run. She stared at him, searching his face. Her people had told her humans were dangerous, but this human's eyes were not filled with cruelty. They were filled with something else. Tired. Kindness, something she had never seen before. Her lips parted as if to speak, but no words came. Her throat was dry, her voice lost. She had not spoken to anyone for days. Daniel's heart ached. He remembered his little sister back home, the way she used to look at him when she was afraid of storms. This child's eyes looked the same. He slowly reached into his pack and pulled out a ration bar. Unwrapping it, he placed it on the ground between them. Then he leaned back, keeping his distance. The girl stared at the food, her body trembling, her stomach growled, but her fear held her in place. "Go on," he whispered. "It's for you." She waited, watching him. Only when she was sure he would not move did she step forward. Her small hands reached for the bar, grabbing it as if it might vanish. She bit into it quickly, chewing. Tears spilling from her golden eyes. Daniel watched in silence, his chest heavy. No soldier, no weapon, no order could explain what he felt at that moment. This was not just survival. This was something deeper. The girl finished the food and looked up at him. Her lips trembled, and at last a whisper came out. "Why, you help me?" The soldier blinked, surprised. Her voice was weak but clear. He thought for a long moment before answering. "Because no one else did," he said softly. "Because you shouldn't be alone." The girl's golden eyes widened. No one had ever said such words to her. No one had ever chosen her. Her heart, broken so many times, felt something strange. Was this trust? But the galaxy was cruel, and trust was dangerous. Daniel knew this choice would cost him. If his commanders found out he was protecting an alien child, they would call him a traitor. If enemies found out, they would hunt him. But when he looked at her small face, at the tears on her cheeks, he knew his choice was already made. He stood up, his rifle back in his hands. "Stay close to me," he said. His voice was firm now, the voice of a soldier who had made a decision. The girl nodded slowly, stepping closer. For the first time in her life, she was not walking alone. The ruins around them were still burning. Enemies could be anywhere. But now, in the ashes of war, a soldier and an abandoned child began their journey together. Neither knew where it would lead. Neither knew what dangers would come, but in that moment something powerful was born. A bond between human and alien. A bond strong enough to shake the galaxy. A dangerous choice. The night on the ruined planet was darker than space itself. Ash clouds covered the stars, and the wind carried the smell of fire and death. Sergeant Daniel Kane walked slowly through the ruins, the little alien girl following close behind. Her golden eyes glowed faintly in the shadows, a small light in the endless dark. Every step he took was heavy. He should have left her. He should have walked away and followed his orders. Return to base, regroup, survive. That was what a soldier was supposed to do. But something inside him refused. He could not leave her. Not after seeing the fear in her eyes, not after hearing her small voice whisper, "Why you help me?" The girl walked silently, her bare feet leaving soft prints in the ash. She did not know this human, she did not know his name, but for the first time since her people abandoned her, she felt like she was not invisible. She stayed close, always, a step behind, afraid that if she let go of his shadow, he might vanish like everyone else. Daniel knew the risk. If command found out, they would strip him of rank, maybe even call him a traitor. The rules were clear. Humans were not allowed to carry alien civilians during missions. Too dangerous, too complicated. But rules meant nothing when a child's life hung in the balance. He stopped at the edge of a collapsed building, scanning the horizon. The sound of engines rumbled faintly in the distance, enemy patrols searching the ruins. If they found him with the girl, it would not end with mercy. He clenched his jaw, his hand tightening around his rifle. This was the dangerous choice he had made. Protect her, even if it meant his own death. The girl noticed his tension. Her small hand tugged lightly on the back of his armor. He turned, surprised by the touch. She pointed toward the broken tunnels below the ruins, a place where the smoke drifted and hid the ground. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Safe there." Maybe. Daniel looked at her, then at the tunnels. It could be a trap, a place filled with enemies, but he saw the fear in her eyes and realized she was trying to help. "All right," he whispered. "Stay close." Together they moved into the tunnels, the walls damp and cold. The air smelled of metal and old fire. Their footsteps echoed softly. Every sound felt louder than it should. Daniel raised his rifle, watching every corner. The girl stayed close, her golden eyes glowing in the dark, guiding him like two small lanterns. As they walked deeper, the soldier's thoughts churned. Why had she been abandoned? Why would her people leave a child behind? He wanted to ask, but he saw how fragile she looked. Questions could wait. Right now, survival came first, but the galaxy was cruel, and danger was never far. From above, the sound of boots echoed. Enemy voices shouted in a harsh alien tongue. They were searching, sweeping the ruins. Daniel pulled the girl against the wall, holding her close. His finger rested on the trigger. His heart beat steady like a drum. The girl trembled, burying her face in his chest. He could feel her tiny frame shaking. For the first time, Daniel did not just feel like a soldier. He felt like a guardian. Minutes passed like hours. The patrol moved away, their voices fading. Daniel let out a slow breath. The girl looked up at him, her golden eyes wide. "You save me again," she whispered. He gave a small smile, tired but honest. "Yeah," he said softly. "I guess I did." But deep inside, he knew this was only the beginning. The choice he had made was dangerous. By keeping her with him, he was walking against the current of war. He was carrying a secret that could cost him everything. And yet, when he looked at her face, he knew he would make the same choice again. They rested in the tunnel for a while. Daniel gave her water. The last he had in his canteen, she drank carefully, as if afraid to waste a single drop. When she was done, she whispered, "My name, Lyra." It was the first time she had told anyone her name since being abandoned. Daniel nodded. "Lyra," he repeated, making sure he said it right. His voice carried a promise. "You're safe with me." Her eyes softened. No one had ever said that to her. Not her people. Not her family. For the first time, she believed it might be true, but safety was fragile. From deeper in the tunnels came a sound, a metallic scrape, slow and heavy. Daniel raised his rifle again, his body tense. The girl froze, clutching his arm. Something was moving in the dark, not human, not alien soldier, but something else, a machine, broken but still alive, searching for heat, searching for life. Daniel steadied his aim, his voice low. "Stay behind me, Lyra." The girl's heart raced, her tiny hands gripping his armor. The soldier had made his choice. Now he would face the danger that came with it. The tunnel shook as the machine's red eye glowed in the dark. The soldier and the child stood together, one human, one alien. Their story had only just begun, and already the galaxy was testing how far they would go to survive. The hunter becomes the hunted. The tunnels echoed with the sound of metal scraping against stone. The glow of a single red eye lit the darkness. Searching, hunting, Sergeant Daniel Kane steadied his rifle, his breath slow and controlled. Beside him, the little alien girl, Lyra, held tightly to his arm, her golden eyes wide with fear. The machine moved closer, its body heavy and broken but still dangerous. It was an old war drone, left behind when armies abandoned the planet. Half its armor was missing. Wires sparked from its sides. But its sensors still worked. It was programmed for one thing only: eliminate survivors. Daniel pulled Lyra behind a broken pillar. "Stay low, don't move," he whispered. His voice was steady, but inside, his mind raced. He had faced enemy soldiers. He had faced tanks, but facing a drone in a narrow tunnel with a child at his side was different. One mistake, and she would be gone. The drone's red eyes swept across the tunnel like a spotlight. Lyra held her breath, pressing her small hand against her mouth to stay silent. Daniel aimed carefully, waiting for the right moment. The drone clanked forward, its sharp limbs cutting into the stone floor. Then, it stopped. The red eye locked onto their hiding spot. The machine had found them. Daniel fired, the sound of the rifle exploding through the tunnel. The shot hit the drone's head, sparks flying. It staggered but did not fall. Instead, it screeched with a metallic cry and charged. "Run!" Daniel shouted, pulling Lyra with him. They sprinted through the narrow passage, the drone crashing behind them, its heavy limbs smashed through walls, shaking the ground. Lyra stumbled, but Daniel scooped her into his arms without stopping. He ran with all his strength, his breath burning, his body heavy with exhaustion. The tunnel opened into a larger chamber lit faintly by cracks in the ceiling. Daniel set Lyra down and turned, firing again and again. Bullets tore into the drone's body, but it kept coming, relentless, unstoppable. Lyra's golden eyes glowed brighter as fear and desperation surged through her. She raised her small hands as if to push the air. For a moment, Daniel thought he saw a faint shimmer of energy ripple around her. The drone stumbled as if hit by something. Unseen, it crashed into the wall, buying them a few precious seconds. Daniel looked at her, stunned. "What was that?" he asked. Lyra shook her head quickly, tears in her eyes. I don't know," she whispered. Her body trembled as if the effort had drained her completely. The drone rose again, its red eye burning brighter. Daniel cursed under his breath. They couldn't keep running forever. The sound of more engines echoed above. The patrols were returning, enemies were closing in from both sides. He realized with a heavy heart that by saving Lyra, he had turned both armies against him. He wasn't just a soldier anymore. He was now the hunted. Daniel grabbed Lyra's hand, pulling her toward a narrow path that led upward. "We move," he said firmly. She nodded, trusting him without question. They climbed through broken stone until they reached the surface again. The night sky glowed with fire from distant battles. Above, enemy ships patrolled like vultures. Their searchlights cutting through the smoke, Daniel pulled Lyra into the shadows of a collapsed tower. He scanned the horizon. There was no safe place left. Lyra looked up at him, her voice soft but steady. "They will never stop, will they?" Daniel shook his head slowly. "No," he said. "Not until they have what they want." Her eyes lowered, sadness filling her face. "They want me," she whispered. The words sank into Daniel like a blade. So that was it. The reason she had been abandoned, the reason soldiers and machines hunted her. She was not just a child. She was something more, something the galaxy wanted. But Daniel did not ask questions, he did not demand answers. He only placed a hand on her shoulder and said, "Doesn't matter. I'm not letting them take you." From the hills, lights flickered. Enemy patrols moving closer. Daniel's instincts sharpened. They were surrounded, hunted from above and below. Every soldier, every machine would be looking for them. Protecting her would not just be a dangerous choice anymore. It would be war. Lyra pressed close to him, her golden eyes glowing faintly in the dark. For the first time in her short life, she was not running alone. For the first time, she had someone who stood in front of her instead of walking away. But fear gnawed at her heart. How long could one human protect her against the galaxy? The answer came in Daniel's eyes, hard, steady, unshaken. As long as he breathed, as long as he stood, he would fight. He had made his choice, and choices like this could change the fate of worlds. The night wind howled, carrying the sound of marching soldiers. The hunter had become the hunted. And now the true chase was about to begin. The girl's secret. The night was cold, and the ruins were silent again. Daniel and Lyra hid deep inside the shell of an old bunker. The walls were cracked. The air smelled of dust and rust, but for now it was shelter. For now it was safe. Daniel sat against the wall, his rifle across his knees. His eyes stayed sharp, watching the shadows. But inside his mind, questions burned. Why were enemy patrols hunting so hard for one child? Why would both sides risk soldiers, ships, and machines for her? Lyra sat across from him, hugging her knees. Her golden eyes glowed faintly, the only light in the darkness. She looked small, fragile. But Daniel remembered what happened in the tunnels, the ripple of invisible force that had pushed the drone aside. It had not been his bullets that stopped it. It had been her. "Lyra," he said quietly. Her eyes lifted slowly, tired but alert. "You did something back there." His voice was gentle, not accusing. "I saw it. You stopped that machine." She lowered her gaze, her hands trembling against her knees. "I didn't mean to," she whispered. Her voice was soft, like glass ready to break. "I just wanted it to stop, and then it happened." Daniel leaned forward, his voice calm. "What happened?" For a long moment she said nothing. Then her lips parted, the words spilling out in a rush. "My people left me because I'm different." Her golden eyes filled with tears. "They said I was dangerous, a mistake. They said if others found out what I was, they would use me, so they abandoned me." Daniel's jaw tightened, anger boiling inside him. Abandoned, by her own kind, because of fear. He thought of all the times he had seen war tear families apart, but to leave a child behind because of what she might become, that cut deeper than any wound. Lyra continued, her small voice shaking. "I can feel things I'm afraid when I'm angry. It comes out like light, like force. I don't know how to control it. Sometimes it hurts people." She hugged herself tighter, as if trying to make the power disappear. "That's why they hate me. That's why everyone left me." Daniel was silent for a moment, His soldier's mind told him this was dangerous. If the wrong people captured her, she could be turned into a weapon, but his heart saw something else. Not a weapon, not a threat, just a scared little girl who wanted to be more than the curse she carried. He leaned closer, his voice steady. "You're not a mistake, Lyra." Her eyes widened at his words. "No matter what they told you, you are not a burden. You are not nothing." Tears slipped down her cheeks. No one had ever told her that before. For the first time, she felt the weight of her secret lift, even if only a little. But outside the bunker, danger was closing in. The patrols had not stopped searching. They knew what Lyra was. They knew what she could do, and if they found her, they would not hesitate. To drag her away, Daniel tightened the straps of his armor. He had made his choice long ago. Now he understood what it meant. Protecting her was not just about saving a child. It was about saving something the galaxy feared, something powerful, something that could either destroy or heal. He crouched in front of her, his voice low and firm. "Listen to me, Lyra." Her golden eyes looked into his, shining with tears. "They're hunting you because they're afraid of what you can do, but I don't care what they want. As long as I'm alive, they won't take you." She blinked, shocked. "Even if it means they call you traitor?" she asked softly. Daniel gave a small, tired smile. "I stopped caring about medals and ranks a long time ago." He placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "What matters now is you." The bond between them grew stronger in that moment. Not just soldier and child, not just protector and protected, but something more. A family born in the ashes of war. Suddenly the ground above them shook. Dust fell from the ceiling, cracks spreading across the bunker walls. The sound of engines thundered overhead. Lyra gasped, fear filling her voice. "They've found us." Daniel grabbed his rifle and stood, his eyes sharp. "Stay behind me," he ordered. The girl nodded, clutching his cloak tightly. The sound of boots echoed down the tunnel leading to their bunker. Shouts in alien language filled the air. The hunters had arrived. Lyra's hands trembled, golden light flickering faintly around her fingers. She looked up at Daniel, her voice desperate. "They'll take me," she whispered. "They'll make me a weapon." Daniel raised his rifle, his eyes unshaken. "Not while I'm here," he said firmly. "Not ever." The bunker door cracked open, shadows moving in. The soldiers had come, their weapons drawn, but inside the bunker stood one human soldier and one alien child. Together, they were ready to fight. Lyra's secret was no longer hidden. It was out in the open. And now, the galaxy would do anything to claim it. But Daniel Kane had made his choice, and he would stand against the galaxy itself if it meant keeping her safe. The final stand. The bunker shook as enemy soldiers forced their way inside. The walls cracked, dust rained down, and the sound of boots filled the tunnels. Sergeant Daniel Kane tightened his grip on the rifle, his eyes fixed on the narrow entrance beside him. Lyra's golden eyes glowed faintly, fear and power mixing inside her small frame. They had run enough. They had hidden enough. Now, there was nowhere left to go. Daniel's voice was calm but firm. "Stay behind me, Lyra." She nodded, her small hands trembling, her heart pounding. She wanted to run, but something inside told her to stay. This was the moment everything had led to. The first enemy soldier appeared, his armor shining in the dim light. Daniel fired, the blast echoing through the chamber. The soldier fell, but more poured in behind him. Their shouts filled the air, their weapons raised. Daniel moved like a wall of steel. Every shot was precise, every step measured. He fought not for medals, not for orders, but for the child behind him, the child the galaxy wanted to claim. But no matter how strong he was only one man. The soldiers kept coming, surrounding the bunker. Lyra's eyes widened as she saw the tide of enemies. Fear burned inside her chest, and with it her secret power stirred. Golden light shimmered around her fingers, growing brighter. Daniel saw it from the corner of his eye. "Lyra?" "No," he said, sharply. "You'll hurt yourself." But Lyra shook her head, tears streaming down her cheeks. "They'll take you, they'll kill you, I won't let them." The ground trembled, the walls cracked wider. A shockwave of golden energy burst from her small hands. Enemy soldiers were thrown back, their weapons scattering. For a moment, silence filled the bunker. The air hummed with power. Daniel turned, his heart pounding. Lyra stood glowing, her small frame trembling under the force of her own strength. Her golden eyes burned like twin suns. She was no longer just a child. She was something greater. But the power hurt her. Her knees buckled, her body shaking. Daniel rushed to her side, catching her before she collapsed. "That's enough," he whispered, his voice firm but gentle. "You don't have to do this alone." The soldiers regrouped, shouting orders. They moved in again, weapons raised. Daniel placed Lyra behind a pile of rubble. Then he rose to his feet, rifle in one hand, knife in the other. His voice was steady. "If you want her, you'll have to go through me." The enemies charged. The chamber became fire and thunder. Daniel fought like a man who had nothing left to lose. Every strike, every shot was for Lyra. He was wounded. His armor cracked. Blood stained his side, but he refused to fall. Lyra watched, tears in her glowing eyes. She had never seen such strength, not the strength of power, but the strength of choice. He could have abandoned her like everyone else, but instead, he stood, bleeding and unbroken. The enemy commander stepped forward, towering in dark armor. His voice boomed through the chamber. "Human, give us the child. You cannot win." Daniel spat blood and raised his rifle again. "Then I'll lose standing, not kneeling," he growled. His words cut through the noise like fire. Lyra's heart raced. This was not just a soldier. This was a protector who would fight the galaxy itself. The commander raised his weapon, aiming at Daniel. Lyra's scream filled the chamber. Her golden power erupted again, but this time, it was not fear. It was fury. The energy exploded outward, shaking the ground. The commander and his soldiers were thrown into the walls, weapons ripped from their hands. The bunker ceiling cracked, rocks falling. The chamber shook as if the planet itself had awakened. Daniel shielded Lyra with his body, holding her close. The golden light burned bright, then slowly faded. Lyra collapsed in his arms, her small body drained. Daniel looked down at her, his heart heavy. She was pale, her eyes closed, but she was breathing, had saved them both, but at a terrible cost. The surviving soldiers stumbled back, fear in their eyes. They had seen her power. They whispered among themselves, "She is the key, the weapon, the last of her kind," but none dared move forward. The bond between the soldier and the girl had become something even they feared. Daniel stood tall, his body aching. He looked at the retreating soldiers, his voice cold. "Tell your commanders, she is not yours, she is not your weapon, and if you come for her again, you'll find me waiting." The enemies hesitated, then slowly retreated into the shadows. The bunker grew quiet, broken only by the sound of Daniel's heavy breathing. He looked down at Lyra, brushing the dust from her hair. "You did well," he whispered, his voice softer than the night. "You're safe now," but deep in his heart he knew it was not over. The galaxy would never stop hunting her. This was only one battle. The war was still waiting. Still, for this moment in the ashes. Of the final stand, one human soldier and one alien child had survived. And together they had proven that hope was stronger than fear. That choice was stronger than orders, and that even in the darkest war humanity could shine a new beginning. The bunker was silent. The smoke cleared slowly, and the echoes of battle faded into the night. Sergeant Daniel Kane stood among the rubble, his body bruised, his armor cracked, blood staining his side, but he was alive. And in his arms lay Lyra, her golden eyes closed, her small frame weak but breathing. He knelt, brushing dust from her face. "You're safe," he whispered, though his own voice trembled. He had promised her safety, and somehow, against all odds, he had kept that promise. Above, the night sky glowed with fire. Ships still clashed in the distance, and the galaxy's war raged on. But here, in the ruins of one forgotten planet, something greater had happened. A soldier and a child had defied the orders of armies. They had stood together and survived. Lyra stirred slowly, her golden eyes fluttering open. She looked up at Daniel, confusion and exhaustion. In her gaze, "Are we alive?" she whispered. Daniel gave a tired smile. "Yeah, kid. We're alive. She closed her eyes again, pressing her small head against his chest. For the first time in her life, she felt safe enough to rest. Not because the danger was gone, but because she finally trusted someone to keep her safe. Daniel carried her out of the bunker. The air outside was cold, the ground covered in ash and broken stone. But beyond the smoke, the horizon glowed faintly with dawn, the first light of a new day, a new beginning. He set her down gently on a piece of rubble. She looked at the sky, her golden eyes reflecting the morning light. I thought I would always be alone, she whispered. Daniel crouched beside her, his voice steady. You're not alone anymore. His words were simple, but they carried more weight than any oath. Far above, enemy ships circled but did not descend. They had seen what Lyra could do. They had seen the human who stood by her side. For now they kept their distance, but Daniel knew this peace would not last. Lyra turned to him, her voice small. They'll come again, won't they? Daniel nodded slowly. Yeah, they will. Her hands trembled, but his steady gaze calmed her. Then, what do we do? She asked. Daniel looked out at the horizon, his voice firm. We keep moving. We find a place where they can't reach us, and if they try again, we fight. Lyra's golden eyes studied his face. She saw no fear there, only determination. Something inside her heart changed. For so long, she had believed she was a curse, a burden. But this human had chosen her, not because of her powers, not because of what she was, but because she was a child who needed someone. She whispered softly, Why do you protect me, Daniel? He paused, then gave her a tired smile. Because everyone else abandoned you, and because you deserve better. Her lips trembled and tears slid down her cheeks, not tears of pain this time, but of something new. Hope. The sun broke through the smoke, its light touching the ruins. For the first time, the planet did not feel like a graveyard. It felt like the beginning of something greater. Daniel stood, offering his hand. Come on, he said. She took it, her small fingers gripping his tightly. Together, they began to walk through the ruins, not as soldier and survivor, but as family. Behind them, whispers spread across the galaxy. Stories of the alien child with golden eyes. Stories of the human soldier, who defied orders and stood against armies. Some called him a traitor, others called him a hero. But Daniel Kane did not care about names. He cared only about the promise he had made. The galaxy would never forget the sight of a soldier carrying an alien child through fire and smoke. It would never forget that in the darkest of wars, one human chose compassion over cruelty, and one abandoned child found hope in the arms of the very species she had been taught to fear. As they walked toward the horizon, Lyra looked up at him, her voice soft. Will you always stay with me? Daniel's eyes softened. As long as I breathe, he said, and in those words, she found the answer she had been searching for her whole life. Not a weapon, not a mistake, not a burden, but a child who mattered. The galaxy was still dangerous. The war was still raging. But together, human and alien took their first steps into a future no one had imagined. A future where loyalty, courage, and hope could rewrite the story of entire worlds. The soldier and the girl walked into the dawn. And though the war would continue, their bond had already changed the galaxy forever.